Hello, and welcome back to the PNN. My name is Parker Taft. Continuing on with our ideas of goals and how to achieve them, today we are talking about how to deal with goal-setting frustration. I'm sure we've all felt frustration in our lives. Actually, I know for a fact we have all, at one time or another, felt frustration in our lives. Some more than others, but it is a constant. Something didn't go quite the way you wanted to. An unexpected challenge has popped up in what you thought would be an easy, simple assignment. You're tired of working through hours and hours of boring paperwork or homework with no tangible benefit. But everything in this life is critical for one reason or another. There are some things that are superfluous in our lives, and thus we should cut them out. But in our grand process of working towards our goals and our dreams, if a challenge, if a task comes up along that path, more likely than not, it is necessary to accomplish your goal or your dream. If it's tangential, like has nothing associated with your goal or your dream, then there's no need for you to do it. But if it is something that must be done to achieve that goal or dream, it must be done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No matter how frustrated or angry you get, it still has to be done if you want to accomplish it. So you have to learn to work through that frustration and deal with it. I'm sure there was many times when LeBron James or Arnold Palmer, when they were out there shooting their basketball hoops and putting their golf balls respectively, they felt frustration at their apparent lack of improvement, why they had to practice more than the others, why they were out in the pouring rain while others were gallivanting inside or hanging out with friends. But they found ways to get through it, and it paid off very well for them in the long run. So let us get into it. So what is goal-setting frustration? I think that's important to define because there's different kinds of frustration. There's emotional frustration, physical frustration, but what we're talking about specifically today is goal-setting frustration. So basically, it's defined as frustration that develops from challenges that stand in the way of your goals or a lack of visible progress towards your goals. So basically, we'll use a hypothetical here, the running hypothetical from yesterday. You are trying to improve your run time, and you're improving and you're improving and improving, and all of a sudden you stop improving, or all of a sudden running becomes a lot harder for you, and you're not seeing that improvement, that easy improvement that you did over the previous couple of weeks. So you start to get frustrated, and maybe you'll, out of curiosity, start maybe changing a few things up a bit, trying to improve, but then when you still don't see the results, you'll get frustrated. And you'll keep doing it, but you'll get getting more frustrated, and then eventually you'll give up. Well, then you're never going to achieve, because right where you reach the point of most resistance, you're just before your greatest breakthrough. Once you get over that hump, that area of greatest resistance, you'll see vast, vast improvement. It's the struggle and the journey along the way that makes us, not achieving the goal, the end result in and of itself. It is the journey, the process, the struggle. But also a lack of visible progress. So you could say you could start running, but you don't seem to be improving. Actually, in my particular instance, when I first started running, I actually thought I got worse. And there wasn't any visible progress towards my goal. And the measuring, once I figured out that in order to achieve a goal, you have to have certain stepping stones and measuring marks, micro goals. Even those I didn't felt like I was failing at. That I was just basically running around in circles. I wasn't accomplishing anything. And I got frustrated. And I actually gave up on it for a couple of months. And then once I realized what I was doing, I decided to give it another try. And while I admit the road has been tough, and I still have those days where I have frustration, I'm working through it, and I am building what is called frustration tolerance, which is defined as the ability to deal with frustration while still working towards your goals. It is a key part of mental well-being, to be able to be frustrated, but being able to overcome it, to be able to tolerate it, to be able to tolerate minor to moderate inconveniences or hiccups in your plans, to overcome problems and challenges that may fall into your path on your way to achieving your goals and dreams. Interesting little note here. High tolerance helps people deal with challenges successfully without being derailed by minor hiccups or inconveniences. Think of it as a chain, and the links that weld the chain together. A person with a high frustration tolerance is someone who can stand up to a lot of pressure, a lot of tugging, a lot of pulling. But someone with a low frustration tolerance is like the weak link in the chain. You apply just a little bit of force to it and it shatters, which is something none of us should do when we face adversity, because adversity is where growth happens. So, consequences of the frustration. 1, can make it difficult to achieve your goals, long-term, short-term, because when you get frustrated with it, it makes it harder. You're not in a very good mental state to work towards your goals or to improve the methods by which you're working towards them. It leads to a lot of self-judgment and blaming, which only builds the frustration and creates a whole negative atmosphere. And then the goal itself gets a sort of negative tinge to it, a negative bias. Oh, I'll never be able to accomplish it. Thoughts like that. And then you eventually let it go, forget about it, give up on it, even if it was something you were immensely passionate about, purely because of the fact that you were getting into the tough spots and you weren't really equipped to handle that. And so it, as a result, created a sort of a negative storm of feelings and emotions which poison the mind against achieving the goal. Second, negatively impact long-term relationships. It can hurt people who get frustrated easily, lose patience easily, and anger quickly. And as a result, they find it difficult to converse with friends, family, significant others, and they can also find it difficult to make new friends, acquaintances, and social network, because even minor things can sometimes frustrate them and cause them to get irritated and leave or quit or give up, which is not a healthy thing, especially if you want to expand one's horizons in social relationships. Third, leads to a lack of patience and a need for instant gratification. Well, frustration kind of grows out of a person's desire, want, or preconception of instant gratification, that, oh, everything should come easy to me. Nothing in life is easy. Everything will be hard at one point or another. But also, if you get frustrated, it kind of grows. It's like a self-feeding monster. I have instant gratification. I want something now. But I'm frustrated I can't get it now, so I want it even more now. And it's sort of a self-fueling monster. Instant gratification is one of the worst things that's come out of the 21st century. And the desire for it. Nothing happens overnight. If there's one thing you've learned from this channel thus far, is that nothing happens overnight. Lastly, engenders feelings that you never accomplish anything. Now, this can lead to negative mindsets, biases, makes you feel inadequate, inferior, that you're unable to achieve your goals and dreams like everyone else because somehow the universe is against you, or you just can't do it. No, everyone can do anything as long as they set their mind to it and they stick to it, they persevere, as stated in yesterday's video. So these are the consequences of the frustration. So here are the causes. 1, mental health, like ADHD. Now, there are many techniques and strategies for those with mental health that causes them to get frustrated easily. I advise talking with experienced medical practitioners. They can prescribe medications, counseling, psychological strategies, stuff that is far above my pay grade to develop. Second, personality. We can have a low tolerance to stress as a personal level, especially in the first world. we don't face many large or great challenges, at least the majority of the population, on a daily basis. So when we're faced with those big and large challenges, it can be overwhelming and frustrating. It'd be like trying to climb Mount Everest by crawling. Third, belief system. Some societies naturally correlate success with one's natural talent rather than one's trained ability. If you look at sports players, many of them practice for hours and hours and hours before they even get a chance at a shot at the big leagues. But when they walk out onto that field, the first thing most sports commentators talk about is their raw or natural talent for the sport. Well, some people may be talented for the sport. That talent is usually developed out of hard work and perseverance and struggle. It is not something that happened overnight. It's not a natural gift that they were born with. But those sorts of belief systems get ingrained, and people think that, oh, I can do that, but without seeing the whole process that made the person. They only just see the end result. Then there's social media, because social media is a carefully cultivated view at a person's life. It's a brief snapshot, a brief glimpse into a person's life, and it can often lead to feelings of inadequacy, self-loathing, self-deprivation, because you aren't where they are. Well, fun fact, and if there's one thing that you take away from the video, it's this. Social media is often very, very fake, and people's lives are not as wonderful or magnificent as they are. There's, even Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, they don't, jet set around the world, get to have fun all the time. They got to do the boring paperwork. They have to sit in the meetings, the research and development. It's, not all sitting on the beach, sipping mixed drinks with, a bunch of other rich people at a party. It's not. What social media is merely brief windows in frozen periods of time in their lives, which are often purposely chosen to portray them in the best light and show the best aspects of their life. And second, we all come from different places. We all start from different places. So one person's starting point is different from another person's starting point. One person's end point may be a person's starting point. So you should keep this in mind when you're looking at your social media profiles. And I advise limiting social media content consumption to 10 to 15 minutes a day. I know, ironic, given I'm a YouTuber and technically making social media content, but I think that if it's not providing value for you, you shouldn't be following it. But that's my personal opinion. Moving on swiftly, comparing yourself to others. Now, this is a death trap, especially for personal development. And I advise you stop it immediately, because again, we all start from different places. We all begin and end at different places. We all have different end goals in mind. We are not all the same. So, if we were, the world would be a very boring place. So, the important thing is to follow your journey and judge yourself and compare yourself not by who surrounds you or the people and lifestyles you aspire to be, but comparing yourself to who you were 10 minutes ago, an hour ago, a year ago. That's the way you can show improvement, by looking back and reflecting on how much far you've come, not looking at how far you have to go. And lastly, judging and blaming yourself. This is an outgrowth of social media and comparing yourself to others, because when we see things are not going our way, we often instantly blame ourselves, that we are defective, or that the universe is against us, or that something in our particular background, friend, family, mineral, vegetable, is the cause of our undoing. And this can lead to a poisoned chalice of mind, which makes it even harder to overcome the challenges and problems and deal with the frustration that comes with setting high goals and working to achieve them. Now, with that being said, what are some warning signs that can tell us when we're reaching our boiling point? Well, frequent procrastination. If you're consistently putting it off, you're either one, the goal isn't something that's meaningful towards you, or two, you're avoiding some boring or inane task or task that you don't know how to do, but is necessary to do, and you're avoiding it to prevent frustration, which is a sign that you're being frustrated, but you're just not expressing that frustration and not taking an active step to overcome it. Second, frequent complaining. Now, complaining is natural. We've all done it. I've done it. And we will all continue to do it probably till the end of time. But if you're frequently complaining about the tasks that you have to do, it shows you that maybe you're not happy with the status quo. Maybe you should reevaluate what you're doing, how you're doing it, and where you're going. Third, making excuses. Again, sometimes there's perfectly valid excuses, like you were sick with the flu, or you got into a car accident. Those are perfectly good excuses for almost everything. But making excuses like, oh, I woke up late, so I'm not going to go for a run, or I ate too much the night before, stuff like that. Excuses that you're using to justify why you're not taking action towards your goal. Now, this can just be seen as either A, a frustration at the process, or B, a frustration at the goal itself. If it's frustration at the goal itself, it's time for a reevaluation. If it's frustration at the process, it's time for you to dig down and do a little bit more research to find out something that's better fits for you. Or two, you just need to buckle down and do the work. Because nothing was ever accomplished by making excuses on a regular basis. Next, you are focused on immediate results, instant gratification. If I don't have six-pack abs by the end of the week, I'm going to quit. Well, you're not. I don't think anyone has been able to develop six-pack abs or better their running time or lift an extra 100 pounds in a week. Not unless you're some Hollywood celebrity that can afford a very expensive personal trainer and basically spend your entire day at the gym for a week. So it can show you that maybe you're a bit frustrated with the process if you're focused on immediate, instant gratification. Next, outbursts of irritation and anger. Now, this is the most blatant because when people are frustrated, you often see them, angry either at themselves or at their surroundings. And lastly, giving up. Now, you can never accomplish your goals if you give them up, but it's a perfect sign of frustration. If you feel like you can no longer go forward, that it's just useless, isn't worth it anymore, it may be a sign that you're either A, frustrated at the goal itself, which means that time for recalibration, or B, you're frustrated at the process. And it's time to either A, buckle down, or B, refine your process. So, how to overcome frustration? Well, first, focus on the big picture, the journey to your goal, not the small picture, end result. That is critical. The big picture, the long run, the long haul, is important to ensure that you basically get what you want. The short stumbling blocks along the way will be small potatoes when compared to what you've accomplished once you've reached the goal. So you have to keep that in mind, that it's a process, it's a journey. It's hiking a mountain. You wouldn't stop halfway hiking a mountain. At least most of you wouldn't. You'd go all the way, and you'd come back. Practice mindfulness and gratitude. This is very important for anyone's mental health in general, not just in goal setting. But it helps you see how much you've gained so far, rather than seeing where you still have to go. You can see how you're doing, how you're improving, where you can be better, but also reveling in your successes and being grateful for where you are right now and the help that you've received. It can be a boon of positive energy to the mind, which can help provide you with that extra motivation to continue forward and push through the frustration. Third, take breaks. Take breaks often, because it does no good to try to do an activity while being frustrated, because it can lead to more anger bitterness and frustration and continue to poison the chalice and the feelings that you have surrounding your particular goal. So that is critical. Oops, sorry about that. Next, set and achieve mini goals to build traction and celebrate those mini goals when you achieve them. So you want to run a mile. So you start off by saying running consistently for a minute, and then 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And as you reach any of those each and every one of those mini goals, you celebrate because you've started to develop traction. You start to see that you're making progress and you can actually push through the frustration, the malaise, and achieve bigger and better things. Next, have a long-term vision, because focusing back on the big picture, you must have a long-term plan for what you wish to accomplish. Short and midterm goals are fine. They're actually quite good and healthy, but they must work towards your long-term goals. They must not work in contradiction, or if you don't have any long-term goals, they really lack a larger or bigger purpose to your life, which is never good when you try to commit to them and work through them to achieve them. It can often lead to you getting frustrated easily and quitting because you don't see how they can fit into the larger picture, larger mosaic that is your life. If you feel overwhelmed, just let it go and focus on the immediate now. This is actually a piece of advice from one of the articles I read in research for this video. And they said that if you're overwhelmed by your future goals or, the big long-term ones, then forget about them and just focus on the small picture. I know this goes in contradiction to focusing on the big picture, but it depends on what's overwhelming you. If the now is overwhelming you, then focus on the big picture. If the big pictures would overwhelm you and frustrate you, then you should focus on the now, the next 24 hours, and making sure those are the best you can make it, best 24 hours that you can make them to be. Next, build good habits. I know, a consistent theme on this channel, but good habits make good people. Be flexible. Things are going to change. Life is going to give you a curveball every once in a while. Not everything will go your or my way. What we must do is be flexible, like the tall grass of the African savanna. The wind may bow them, but they do not break, whereas the stiff tree will be blown away in the storm. Take your time. Time is a very precious thing. We're only given a certain amount of it on Earth. But, especially for our younger viewers, you have plenty of it. And there's always time to rework, revise, and recommit to achieving your goals. So, just because someone else was able to do it in 3 months doesn't mean you have to do it in 3 months. You can take it 6 months, a year. Everyone's path is their own, and they must follow it at their own pace. Give yourself mini pep talks in the mirror every morning. This can help fill you with positive energy and a greater sense of meaning, cause, and motivation to achieve your goals and power through that frustration. Confide in a friend or family member, accountability partner if you have one, because sometimes we just need that friendly counsel, that kind ear to listen to our problems and to give us some much needed advice, sometimes even tough love. And then lastly, identify actions you can take right now and take them. Always take action, and we're big advocates of that. Take action right now. Do right now. And once you get on the road, you'll see that it's a lot easier than when you were just sitting on the chair looking out and seeing all that you had to do. But once you get started, you'll see it's a lot easier. And then throw fear out the window. Fear has nothing to do with what's important. As Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Wrapping this up, before we go, I like to leave with a few pieces of actionable advice. 1. First 5 minutes in the morning, when you wake up, list 3 things you're grateful for and 3 positive things about yourself. And include this in like a mini pep talk for yourself. 2. journal. I think that's important for mindfulness. Meditate. Keep your journals handy when you come up with new ideas. Keep your goals handy and visible throughout the day to help ward off frustration. And then take breaks and always focus on the big picture. So those are a few pieces of advice coming from one personal development student to another. So, as always, here are my sources and further reading, which will also be listed in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, this is the PNN Broadcast signing off.